Namsadakta mtazamaji, hujambo popote pale ulipo, na shukrani za dhati kwa kutenga muda wako na kuungana nasi jioni hii leo ndani ya taarifa Dira Ya Hope TV, ikiwa ni tarehe mosi mwezi Julai. Bila shaka mwanzo mpya, mwamko mpya, wengi wanasema ndio wakati wa kuangazia au kutazama tena yale malengo tuliyoweka wakati mwaka ulipokuwa unaanza, kama tumepiga hatua, kama tumeweza kutimiza mengine, au ndio hivyo tunafutilia mbali. Tuanze tena mtazamaji, si neno yote 9-10 ni kumshukuru Mungu kwa uhai aliotupa leo hii. Zungumza nasi kwenye mitandao ikiwa ni Hope TV Kenya kwenye Facebook na YouTube. Mimi ni Faith Kaulu, tambatane hadi tamati. Sasa Wakenya watalazimika kuharamikia zaidi kwenye vituo vya mafuta. Hii ni baada ya mamlaka ya kudhibiti bei ya mafuta na kawi nchini IPRA kutangaza nyongeza ushuru katika bei ya mafuta. Bei ya petroli sasa imefikia shilingi 195 na senti 53, dizeli ikiuzwa kwa shilingi 179 na senti 67, na mafuta ya taa sasa inauzwa kwa shilingi 173 na senti 44. Hii ni lita moja. Sasa hii yote ni licha ya mahakama ya juu kusimamisha utekelezwaji wa mswada wa fedha mwaka 2023-2024. Naarifa kuwa taarifa hiyo tutakuwa tunaipata kiundani na Tess Njenga kwa muda usiokuwa mrefu, ila sasa hivi tuvuke tuangazie taarifa nyingine ya asubuhi ya leo. Rais William Ruto amesema kuwa serikali inapanga kuimarisha vyama vya ushirika humu nchini ili kuchochea ukuaji wa uchumi. Akizungumza leo hii wakati wa sherehe za 101 za sikukuu ya ushirika, hii ni katika ukumbi wa kimataifa wa mikutano wa KICC jijini Nairobi, rais ameshikilia msimamo kuwa vyama vya ushirika vina uwezo wa kukuza utamaduni na kuweka akiba, swala litakalopunguza tatizo la kupata mikopo, mojawapo ya changamoto inayokumba vyama vya ushirika.
Akizungumza wakati wa sherehe za 101 za siku ya ushirika katika kituo cha kimataifa cha mikutano cha KICC jijini Nairobi, Rais Ruto amesema kuwa sekta ya maziwa itawekeza katika uhifadhi na utayarishaji wa miundombinu ambayo inalenga kujenga uwezo wa nchi wa kuuza nje kwa soko za Afrika.
Tunajaribu kuhakikisha kwamba katika kila ward kutakuwa na milk chilling plant ambayo itasaidia wakulima ili maziwa yao isiharibike. Itakuwa ni makosa makubwa sana kama ndugu zetu wa Afrika watakunywa maziwa kutoka New Zealand na sisi tuko hapa kilomita 1000, kilomita 500.
Ruto amekariri kuwa uboreshaji wa kisasa wa kampuni ya Kenya Cooperative Creameries itaimarisha ufanisi wake na kuiwezesha kudhibiti soko la maziwa kwa njia endelevu kwa kubadilisha maziwa ya ziada kuwa unga na hivyo kuleta utulivu wa bei. Chini ya ushirikiano wenye matumaini makubwa na serikali za kaunti kuweka vituo vya usambazaji kwa kuhifadhi, kuongeza dhamani na uuzaji wa bidhaa za kilimo. Madhumuni ya ushirikiano huu ni kupunguza upotevu wa mazao baada ya mavuno, kuondokana na uharibifu na kuongeza kipato cha wakulima.
Investment in preservation and processing infrastructure are aimed at building up the country's capacity to export to our region as well as the broader African market. The modernization of the Kenya Cooperative Creameries will ensure its efficiency, enable it sustainably manage milk market glut and converting excess milk into powder, thereby stabilizing prices.
Aidha, rais amesema kuwa sekta ya maziwa itapata msamaha wa ushuru haswa kwa malisho ya mifugo. Yote yanalenga kuinua uzalishaji wa maziwa ya kitaifa kutoka lita 2 kwa wastani hadi lita 7 kwa ng'ombe kila siku na kuongeza kipato cha wafugaji wadogo, huku akishikilia msimamo kuwa serikali ina nia ya kuimarisha vyama vya ushirika ili kuchochea ukuaji.
Kila mwaka tunapata karibu lita bilioni 5 ya maziwa. Mpango yetu ni kuongeza mapato ya maziwa kutoka bilioni 5 mpaka bilioni 10.
Kulingana na Kenya Kwanza, vyama vya ushirika vina uwezo wa kukuza utamaduni wa kuweka akiba na kuwapa wanachama fursa ya kupata fedha nafuu, huku serikali ikiendelea kuvisaidia vyama vya ushirika kwa kuanzisha vituo vya kujumlisha na kusambaza bidhaa kwa ajili ya kuhifadhi, kuongeza dhamani na masoko ya mazao ya kilimo.
Sekta hii ya cooperative ni ya muhimu kwa sababu inaleta washirika pamoja, na mkiona katika budget yetu ya mwaka huu tumeweka pesa nyingi katika value chains ambayo inawahusisha washirika.
Waliohudhuria hafla hiyo ni naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua, mawaziri Simon Chelugui, vyama vya ushirika na biashara ndogondogo MSMEs, na Alice Wahome, maji na umwagiliaji, miongoni mwa viongozi wengine. Naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua akiwataka wakulima kujiunga na vyama vya ushirika ili kusaidia kuongeza uwezo wao wa kujadiliana.
Rais wetu wacha tukwame hapa kwa hivi vyama vya ushirika. Hapa tukwame hapa. Wengine wanauliza kwa nini tuna shida huko na vyama vya ushirika. Sisi tumechanuka. Wacha tujipange na hii cooperatives. This is a way to build the economy of this country.
Nikiripotia Dira Ya Hope TV, mimi ni Joy Gatwiri.
Mtazamaji, tume ya mishahara na marupurupu nchini SRC imetetea pendekezo la nyongeza ya mishahara kwa maafisa wakuu serikalini. Hii ni kwa 14%. Ni swala ambalo linazidi kuibua hisia mseto kutoka kwa wananchi na hata Rais William Ruto. Kulingana na mwenyekiti wa SRC Lynn Mengich, tume hiyo inatekeleza theluthi moja ya pendekezo hilo lililokubalika kwa watumishi wa umma kuanzia tarehe 1 Julai, ambayo ni siku ya leo, huku akikariri hali ya kiuchumi nchini. Mengich alihakikisha kuwa mishahara itawianishwa ili kuwafikisha wote kwenye 50%. Gloria Musimbi na ripoti hiyo.
Siku moja tu baada ya Rais Ruto kukataa pendekezo la tume ya mishahara nchini SRC ya kuongezea mishahara maafisa wakuu wa serikali hadi kufikia 14%, kiongozi wa SRC Lynn Mengich ametetea pendekezo la tume hiyo kwa kuahidi kuwa watazingatia maoni kutoka kwa Wakenya kama ilivyo kwenye kanuni 5 za uamuzi wa malipo na kuchukua uamuzi wa mwisho.
Therefore put it in context as a country and say if CEOs in the private sector at the middle level, not the highest level, are at 3 million. And the highest actually goes up to 7 million. We have that data. So when we then look at a president at 1.6, it's important to have the context that the pay in the public sector is not aiming at taking pay to the highest level, what we have proposed. When we have said this is a proposal, and the Constitution clearly said we must undertake public participation, it actually means we must take seriously public participation.
SRC imesema hazina ya kitaifa imetenga shilingi bilioni 22.6 kwa hatua ya nyongeza ya mishahara, huku asilimia 40 ikienda kwa walimu kwa shilingi bilioni 9.1, asilimia 30 kwa utumishi wa umma kwa shilingi bilioni 6.7, asilimia 27 kwa serikali za kitaifa na kaunti, na asilimia 3 kwenda kwa maafisa wa serikali kwa shilingi milioni 574. Mengicho amethibitisha kuwa SRC imeambatanisha viwango vya kulipa mishahara maafisa wa serikali na viwango vya kimataifa kupitia uwiano wa Benki ya Dunia.
The World Bank definition and the range that is given, we have attained that ratio for state officers. For the other officers, not fully, but we are progressively working towards achieving that.
Mengich pia amesema kuwa tume hiyo haijapunguza mishahara ya wawakilishi wadi humo nchini. Haya yakijiri baada ya wawakilishi wadi hao hivi majuzi kuandamana na kudai ukosefu wa haki kutoka kwa SRC.
Hours owed that has been removed. You start your job, it is a new contract with the citizens, with the pay that has been set for you. You accepted the job knowing what it was. But I want to confirm that the Commission has not reduced the pay of an MCA, because that has been one of the things that has been said over and over. There has been no reduction.
Mengicha amebainisha kuwa SRC iko tayari kupokea maoni kutoka kwa washikadau ili kufahamisha, kukagua mipangilio na kushauri kuhusu malipo ya maafisa wa serikali na watumishi wa umma.
Looks forward to feedback from stakeholders to inform, review, setting and advising on remuneration and benefit for state officers and other public officers. So we continue to receive feedback on the public participation, and we will continue to do that. And once we are through with that process, then the Commission will then set the pay for state officers and will advise for the other public officers.
Nikiripotia Dira ya Hope TV, jina langu ni Gloria Musimbi.
Tuangazie sasa taarifa hii ya kutamausha na kusikitisha kufuatia ajali mbaya iliyofanyika barabara kuu hii ya Kericho Nakuru eneo la Londiani. Waziri Kipchumba Murkomen ametangaza mipango ya kuhamisha wachuuzi wanaohudumu kando mwa barabara. Uamuzi huu ni mojawapo ya juhudi za serikali kuimarisha usalama barabarani na kuzuia matukio ya aina hii kutokea katika siku zijazo. Cynthia Masibo anatuarifu.
Kulingana na walioshuhudia ajali hii iliyotokea kwenye barabara kuu ya Londiani, lori moja lililokuwa likienda kwa mwendo wa kasi ilipoteza mwelekeo na kuyagonga magari mengine waliokuwa wakitembea kwa mguu kando mwa barabara na hata wachuuzi. Kufikia sasa angalau watu 52 wamepoteza maisha yao, wengine 60 wakiendelea kupokea matibabu ya dharura.
Kericho nikienda Nakuru tukapata ajali. Tulisikia tu gari kutoka mbio, tukaambiwa hata hatukujua ni nini ina happen. Tulisikia tu mlio gari ikakuja ikasukuma gari yenye tulikuwa nayo, tukaumia.
Tukio hili limepelekea kuanzishwa kwa uchunguzi ili kutathmini usalama wa wachuuzi waliokuwa kando mwa barabara. Kupitia Wizara ya Uchumi, serikali imeanzisha mpango ya kuhamasisha wafanyabiashara kando mwa barabara kuu kote nchini na kuwahimiza wafanyabiashara hao kuhamisha maduka yao kwa maeneo yaliyotengwa ya soko.
Through the Ministry of Transport will actually look into this issue, because this is not the first time we have this accident here. I believe having the traders here and the ministry through Kenya will have actually, and for the women, for the youth, for the people who are doing business and along the road, will have it outside the road so that their lives are not endangered.
Waziri wa uchukuzi Kipchumba Murkomen amesema kuwa wizara yake itashirikiana na serikali za kaunti ili kuhakikisha kuwa kuna maeneo salama yaliyotengwa na kwa wachuuzi wamehakia maeneo hayo.
Based on the situation we have seen here, my ministry already we are in consultation within the ministry with the NTSA and we will have to sit down on a multi-agency approach to make sure that we get all the markets along our roads out of the immediate road reserve. And that can only be possible if we partner with the county governments and the national government to provide markets immediately or not very far from the road, so that people who are selling their produce to travelers can get the opportunity. We are ready as a ministry to provide access road. Yeah, we are ready to provide access road for the markets to be moved out and for vehicles that are intended to buying produce or goods along the highway to have entry and exit to those markets.
Huenda hatua hii ikaathiri mapato ya wafanyabiashara hawa kwa muda. Serikali imeahidi kuwa itatoa usaidizi mwafaka ili kuona kuwa wafanyabiashara hao hawajanakili hasara. Hatua ya serikali ya kuhamisha wafanyabiashara barabara kuu hii ni mojawapo ya mipango itakayotekelezwa ili kuimarisha usalama nchini. Ajali hii ya kusikitisha Londiani ikitarajiwa kuwa kichocheo cha mabadiliko nchini, itakuwa pia mabadiliko yatakayoimarisha usalama barabarani. Kiripotia Dira ya Hope TV, jina langu ni Cynthia Masibo.
Na mtazamaji, turejelee taarifa ya hapo awali ya kuwa Wakenya sasa watalazimika kuharamika zaidi kwenye vituo vya mafuta baada ya mamlaka ya kudhibiti bei ya mafuta na kawi nchini IPRA kutangaza nyongeza ya ushuru katika bei ya mafuta. Bei ya petroli sasa lita moja imefikia shilingi 195 na senti 53, dizeli ikiuzwa sasa kwa shilingi 179 na senti 67, na mafuta ya taa lita moja ikiuzwa kwa shilingi 173 na senti 44. Tess Njenga anaarifu zaidi.
Punde tu ilipotimia saa 6 za usiku, siku hii ya kwanza mwezi wa Julai, bei ya mafuta ilipanda. Wakenya wameeleza ghadhabu yao huku wakisema kuwa gharama ya maisha imepanda juu zaidi.
The government has been a bit insensitive kwa sababu ya kuleta tax zote the same time. Hata as much as tunasema they want to raise tujitegemee na tax, hata mgonjwa anapeangwa dawa na dose, anameza kidogo kidogo. So I think hii tax burden imekuja so abrupt na Wakenya hawakuwa ready nayo.
Nyongeza hii inaenda kinyume na amri ya mahakama kuu iliyosimamisha utekelezwaji wa mswada wa fedha mwaka wa 2023. Bei ya mafuta lita moja imepanda kwa shilingi 13.49 kwa petroli, shilingi 12.39 kwa dizeli na shilingi 11.96 kwa mafuta taa. Tukiangalia hapo awali kutoka mwaka wa 2021, kati ya mwezi wa Novemba tarehe 15 na Disemba tarehe 14 jijini Nairobi, lita ya petroli ilikuwa ikiuzwa kwa bei ya 129.72, dizeli shilingi 110.6 na mafuta ya taa shilingi 103.54. Wakati huo mwaka wa 2022, bei ya petroli ilikuwa imepanda mpaka shilingi 177.3 katika kila lita ya petroli, dizeli shilingi 162 na mafuta taa 145.94. Hivi sasa bei ya petroli imefikia shilingi 195.53, dizeli 179.67 na mafuta ya taa ni shilingi 173.44. Wakenya wameikashifu serikali kwa kutozingatia ahadi walizozitoa kuwafaidi wananchi wenye vipato vya chini.
Baada ya kupandisha mafuta, mama mboga na mtu wa boda ndio walimpea kura akapita, lakini sasa tunaona kama ametuachilia sana.
Fai tuangalie sana sisi kama wafanyabiashara wa chini huku chini juu ikipanda hata sisi tutaumia.
Nikiripotia Dira ya Hope TV kutoka jiji la Nairobi, jina langu ni Tess Njenga.
Ndo hali ilivyo sasa mtazamaji. Hayo kando, tuvuke hadi katika kaunti ya Mombasa ambapo gavana wa kaunti hiyo Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir ameidhinisha bajeti ya shilingi bilioni 14.7 ya kaunti hiyo Hii ni bilioni 1 zaidi kuliko bajeti ya mwaka jana chini ya uongozi wake Gavana Ali Hassan Joho. Sekta ya afya imetengewa mgao mkubwa zaidi. Akizungumza baada ya hafla hiyo, Gavana Nasir amesema kuwa uongozi wake unaazimia kuwekeza pakubwa katika sekta ya afya ili kuwasaidia wale wasiojiweza na hata wale ambao hawajasajiliwa na bima ya afya kitaifa NHIF. Kwenye bajeti hiyo, afya imetengewa shilingi bilioni 3.5, sekta ya fedha na uchumi ikitengewa shilingi bilioni 1.8, elimu ikiwa imetengewa shilingi bilioni 1.2.
Yakiwemo ni fedha zile ambazo kwamba zitatumika kwa upande wa NHIF katika ahadi tulioweza kuchukua mambo ya afya. Fedha pia vile vile zitawekwa kuenda kwa sekta ya maji. Fedha zitawekwa kwenda katika sekta ya afya kwa hospitali zetu za kaunti zilioko. Bajeti ya safari hii pia vile vile tumeweka fedha maalum kuweza kuweka ile program tuliokuwa tukifanya zamani kabla sijakuwa gavana, program ya skills mitaani. Ni ahadi tuliitoa, na safari hii bajeti tuna program hiyo ya skills mitaani ambao itaangalia wale vijana waliomaliza na hawakuweza kwenda katika chuo kikuu ama hawakuweza kwenda katika sekta tofauti, lakini wako na hamu na wako na talanta ya kazi ambao kwamba itakuwa ni ya mkono, waweze kwenda kusoma.
Tukisalia tu katika kaunti hiyo ni kuwa mashirika mbalimbali kutoka urithi wa kitamaduni wa lugha huko Mombasa wamekuja pamoja tayari kwa matayarisho ya siku ya Kiswahili duniani tarehe 7 mwezi Julai ili kuadhimisha siku hiyo. Makumbusho ya kitaifa nchini NMK kwa ushirikiano na mashirika ya kijamii na jamii ya Mombasa Old Town wameanza maandalizi ya mapema ya siku hiyo kubwa kwa wote wanaoienzi lugha ya Kiswahili. Mratibu wa taasisi ya mafunzo ya urithi wa Kiswahili Khalid Kitito amesema kuwa maadhimisho ya mwaka huu yatakuwa kubwa zaidi, siku hiyo ikitumiwa kuwahamasisha watu juu ya umuhimu wa lugha na tamaduni.
Sote tuna lengo moja la kueneza na kusambaza lugha na utamaduni wa Kiswahili. Lakini tukaona kwamba hapa eneo la Pwani ambapo ndipo kitovu cha lugha hii ya Kiswahili, lazima tuisherekee kwa ukubwa zaidi.
Jambo la muhimu katika siku hii, tunakaribisha kila mtu kila pahali ili aje aonje, si katika ngoma peke yake, pia katika chakula, katika nyimbo, katika lugha, katika tasnia mbalimbali ambazo kwamba zinasherehesha lugha yetu na tamaduni zetu za Kiswahili.
Mtazamaji, ni hayo tu tulikuwa tumekuandalia jioni hii leo kwenye Dira ya Hope TV, ila usitie shaka manake naondoka mimi, ila nakuacha na mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja aliyofanya mwanahabari wetu Peter Kennedy Kimani. Huyu alizungumza naye Peter Munyiri ambaye alikuwa mkurugenzi mkuu wa benki moja humu nchini, alafu kisha sasa hivi ni mwenyekiti wa baraza fulani baada ya kuteuliwa naye Rais William Ruto. Kujua mengi tu kuhusu Peter Munyiri, tazama mahojiano hayo kama yanavyoletwa kwako na Kennedy Kimani. Ila kwa sasa niruhusu niondoke. Mimi ni Faith Kaulu kwa niaba wote waliofanikisha taarifa hizi na kutakia usiku mwanana.
Welcome to this special interview with Peter Munyiri, a man who wears many hats. He's the former CEO of Family Bank. He's also an elder at CETAM Church and also a family man from what I have seen with my little interaction with him. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and karibu sana to the interview.
Thank you very much.
Kindly, please tell us more about yourself. How was your life growing up back in the village?
First of all, let me welcome the Hope team to our home. Very excited and very happy, very delighted because I'm part of CETAM family. My kids, the church they know is CETAM. At least myself, I know another church. Because CETAM was not there where we grew up. So please feel very welcome. And I'm pretty happy just that you did find time to come and ask me a few questions. I share my life journey. It might encourage somebody. and I'm very happy. I grew up in the countryside. That was Nyeri. My mother is still there, a place called Nyana. That's in Rogoro Ward, Madera constituency, Nyeri County, where I was also a gubernatorial candidate during the last election. So as I grew up, life was difficult, life was tough. The general levels of poverty, they were very high. We were all at more or less equal terms in terms of poverty, but we had a few people whose families, the parents perhaps, were employees of government, then teachers, health workers. You know, they used to look like their standards of life was higher. My father was a businessman in Karatina. He was running a restaurant, so we would support him. And my mother has been in farming ever since I found her in this world. So as I grew up alongside the other siblings, we were working in farms. We would go 5 kilometers to school and back, no lunch. Took the primary school education to secondary school. And into the weekends as well, we would be supporting the parents in terms of farm activities or milking the animals, looking after the animals. Real hard work, for sure. Those things today kids are calling child labor. They were never child labor. And I don't see them as child labor per se. I want full engagement around my children. There's nothing wrong in working hard. You only change your life, you only change the destiny, you only have God as your co-partner and co-worker into where you are headed. If you are also doing your bit, and doing your bit is working hard. So we had difficulties. Often you would miss school fees because you are 3-4 kids into secondary school and the parents are not able, they are peasants. The business was a small restaurant. But largely, I'll say I was always a very determined chap. And God adorned me in terms of brilliance. I don't know number 4, all through from nursery school. I only knew 1 or 2, 3 if it is a bad time. But the real discipline put around me by my mom, because she was the person who was there, helps me even today. We are still very close. Sometimes I just call her now, she is alone. We have all gone out, we are professionals in different fields. And I would call her and tell her, look, Mom, I want to have lunch. That is 11 a.m. in the morning. I'll go home, do lunch with her, we sit and come back. It's very important to keep that bond running and going. And to the young people, I have kept it that way, I want it that way. And I believe I'm mentoring my children and others, and in terms of they've got a parental support role. Because many parents, what they do not have is not money. What they are lacking is that strong bond at family level. And it can very easily then transition out to many things. So that's how we were brought up.
So you actually had a simple, normal life.
Simple, normal life. You do your kilometers. You are a boy like any other boy. Once in a while, there is what boys do. You are doing it. If it is in terms of taking coffee to the coffee factory, you are doing it alongside others. I mean, there was nothing unique or special around my life. No. And even today, as we walk around here, it's the same. There's nothing that complicated around me. And maybe that's why I tell people, even in church, please, let's keep it simple. Even if you look at the faith and you look at the kingdom of God, there's nothing complicated. So I like it that way. I grew up that way. I was brought up in terms of a very strong ethics in terms of work. I'll never have a problem in terms of work. I'll put in as many hours as I can. I normally tell people you've got a whole 24 hours put on your hands by God. If you are really a lazy fella who must sleep 8 hours, you have another 16 hours to think about what you need to do with. You'll give your employer 8 hours, you've got another 8 hours to do your hustle. So you don't really need to mess your job. You do not need to steal your employer's time. God has given you adequate time. So I know it from my own experience, even when we were growing up, and the way my mom really cultured us and my dad. You work hard, keep things simple, walk into the straight and narrow, don't lose your name. Integrity is everything. And one time, because later on our father went to work with KCC in Mombasa, that time I was in the university, so we found somewhere near Tirum, there was a thief and people are running after him, and I was tempted to join. He said, no, you can't do these things. Just leave it. So I really look back and I say, there are things I have really gotten from my parents that have put this elder to be the person and the leader here. But I'm extremely happy on that journey back, just looking on what we've gone through. I was brought up a Catholic. You're talking to an altar boy. You are talking to somebody who even in high school would be conducting masses. My faith hasn't been built out of CETAM. The faith and the strength and the character on Christianity was built through the Catholic Church. That is it. And I normally tell people to appreciate that Christ has a universal church. It's us here who got into problems and we started denominations. So that's where I grew, and that's my early life.
You've talked about work ethic and how your parents instilled that into you. As a young boy back then in Nyeri, right now you wear many hats. Yes. But back then, what do you want to be when you grow up?
It is very, very fulfilling around me that I actually wanted to be a banker. I wanted a career in banking. My father used to run a restaurant in Karatina town called the Sarama Bar and Restaurant. And I used to often get in there, get involved with it. And I would accompany my father to do banking in KCB. I used to. And I'll tell you that among the things I would really admire was how those guys were working and how they were, and as a young person, I believe that is how I got attracted to banking. The people I would admire most were guys who used to wear blue shirts, a black tie, and then some dark blue suits. And they would be carrying briefcases, and I didn't know what they were carrying. Surprisingly, those guys were actually messengers who were moving checks between banks. So I really got attracted around it, and it is true. God will speak to you in whichever area of your life, sometimes through very ordinary people and through very ordinary events. You might be looking for that loud voice storm, no. So I got attracted to banking that way. And after university, actually after high school, Nyeri High School, I got an offer to join Bank of India.
Which year was that?
That was 86. I had an offer to join Bank of India.
Just after high school.
Exactly. And what happened then was, it wasn't possible for me to join because I had an offer to go to the university. So I opted to go to the university. After university, that dream was still around me.
Yeah, which university was that, please?
There was only one. The others were universities. Yes, I have no problem. But we only had one there.
University of Nairobi.
Of Nairobi,
I knew
yes.
it. Yeah.
You got it right. We will never lose sight of that, because even in terms of benchmarking today, you know the University of Nairobi is ranking very high in Africa. So thereafter, when I took economics, the next thing was a stint in Treasury as an economist, Ministry of Agriculture on a secondment. And I ended up actually doing an application for a management trainee job, and I got an opportunity in Barclays. So I migrated out to Barclays.
Let's talk about your campus life.
Life in the university has always been fast, because that's the first point of life where you experience full freedom. So you've got to know that you need to take responsibilities. Luckily, then we had this university stimped, the students stimped. And The halls were properly kept, properly maintained. The kitchens, all in terms of food, it was not a problem then. In fact, for me, part of my stipend, I would give it to my mother. I used to do that. But life was fast. And I told you, I was a staunch Catholic. So for me, it was the Catholic life, the book life, the social life. Because the university, there's a lot of social life. Don't be denied to. Let's talk things the way they were and the way they are even today. So we had to make real decisions. Number one, I was Fulbright. You wouldn't beat me in economics in the University of Nairobi. I kept it. I kept the read. So I was working hard. I had multiple friends. In fact, there are some I've just met where I had gone to meet a few other people. And we were living, you know, the way we were. We had people who ordinarily just got swallowed. They were swept out by the university life. And then I joined, or I was part of a movement in Catholic Church called the Charismatic group. These are believers. They are Pentecost. They believe in the power of the Holy Spirit, all those giftings. And the problem was we were not accepted. We were told we are making noise in church because the church tradition was very, very dominant. So beyond the charismatic groups, I ended up, you know, just me, that is it, enough conviction, and I transitioned out. I have never had a doubt in myself that in 1980, that's when I gave my life to the Lord. That was when we were in lower secondary school, and there was this Christian Union brother. He was reading this Christian Union. I was part of the Catholic Action Team. And one time we had a mission in school, and thereafter then you are struggling through church traditions, you are coming up. So 1995, I said, this is it. I move out of what you call a church into now my life and God, and blossom out into ministry as I know it. So that has been quite a journey in itself. And beyond now the interaction in Sitam Valley Road, we ended up now being part of the team that went to set up Sitam Karen. I know Sitam Karen from when we were putting the tent under Pastor White. I know Sitam Karen from my just not a very active Fera Inside ministry. I was part of the Holy Communion team. That's the opportunity I had. But very active also in terms of other church activities, because there are many activities. The youth church, I would go there once, but the real ministry I served was in the Holy Communion, and part of the men's ministry. And then that's from where that Sitam decided to set up a church in Gong. And now Gong was being supported by Karen, and they requested members who could volunteer to go and be part of the team to spearhead the church in Gong. Volunteer. The church in Gong is exactly 400 meters from our farm in Gong. The church was planned inside our home. We would meet as believers. After church service on Saturday, we would meet in our home. We plan, 2002, coming now to 2003 when it was launched. We would meet in our home in the afternoon. We would discuss the leadership then, and we would go to the site, and we became a part of. And I'm entirely happy. I know that ministry, when it wasn't big, it didn't even have people we could say we were 100. We saw ourselves go to 100. We were part of the leadership there. We founded some of the ministries. We served. We've now grown into thousands. We've seen God moving. So when we went to support the setting up of the church in Gong, it's the whole story of the Ark. The Ark was with us as a family. We never went back to Karen. So we've stuck in there. So out of this home, we go to church in Gong, we come back. And the most significant thing around this journey is really God. What's the position between God and his servant? What's the position between God and his family? Whose approval and rating do I want? I'll tell you this and give it to I mean, we owe it. We owe it to God, but in terms of upbringing, my mom has been a church leader ever since I came to realize is my mom. She's been leading even the Catholic Church at the level of the parish. She's been a leader, a treasurer, a woman leader. Even today in her 80, she's just making it to 80. She's still leading. What am I trying to say? If you make your children inherit the good side of it, they will be able to overcome even the evil around them. Because for me, the way it is, my mother taught me boldness. You question, you don't do things, and that is her even today. And my mother, if you are at fault, you are at fault. You own up, you part ways nicely. And even today, we are mature sons. She'll not tolerate all manner of mediocrity. She'll tell you. Not in public the way she would deal with us then. But she'll have a conversation. So, for me, this elder is the same. It is the same. I'm fairly forthright. I don't have gray. It's either black or white. And I tell you this. The boldness God talks about in Christianity, the courage Joshua was told about, the firmness and the position of faith in God which Daniel had is part of the heritage I have from my parent. And it has grown to a level now. I have no problem if you are messing in church, I'll tell you. You know, the Bible hasn't changed. The standards of God don't change. So there are things that I will consider to be, these are an abomination before God. But I see fellow Christians they are not even struggling with it. So we need to evolve. I have seen people getting into the temptation of hymn songs are old school. I mean, they came out of an inspiration of the Holy Spirit. We must never lose sight of that. You don't drop Holy Spirit things, then you are chasing, you are saying, oh, God doesn't change. The standards are the same. Everything I do myself today, even when there is a debate and an argument, I normally say, place it on the Bible. Does it pass? If it passes, fine. If it doesn't, I tell you this is it. So it's been a whole journey around leadership, and I can take it fast because you see now I joined as a management trainee of a bank. Management trainee, you are down there. You are doing teller jobs. So we were told you must take Chartered Institute of Bankers exam UK for you to advance so that in 4 years you will be an assistant manager. The papers were it, and the highest qualifications in banking anyway, UK or here, was the associate exams of Chartered Institute of Bankers. So God has gifted me. I've no struggle. First 6 months, how many papers do you think I took? 4, and I got them. We are supposed to finish those papers in 4 years. I took another 4. Yeah? So in 1 year, I had 7 papers. So the year that came, I moved up the grades. So I got set apart. The whole thing around it is, please distinguish yourself. You want to move up, distinguish yourself. You want to conquer life, distinguish yourself. You want to break the barriers you are seeing ahead of you. There is prayer, but there is what you must do. There is a time in this country we were only 18 chartered bankers from UK. People who could go and work in any bank in the world. I was among them. And I was a young man. So I applied for another job. Moved to Standard Chartered. From an assistant manager in Barclays to Standard Chartered, I was a regional manager then. Went to Mombasa to look after trade finance. young man like yourself. I didn't know how to behave like a senior manager. Because even when I went for introductions, this is a senior manager, people are asking how. It's just another young man here. In fact, I would develop a lot of anxiety. And to conquer that anxiety, I used to go to the mirror. And I would say, yes, I'm the one, you know. I mean, you've got to exercise it, and God transition me. For me, the adjustment of my role in Standard Chartered was the most difficult one. I hadn't taken any leadership role per se. And I've been thrown in as a leader. I'm meeting fairly senior people. And thereafter, I applied for a job in Cobank. They gave me a job. I ended up being a general manager there. So 31 or thereabout found me a general manager. 31, 32. I grew it out. KCB put out a job. They were recruiting a group chief executive officer. I applied for it. They gave me the job of a deputy group chief executive officer. They gave me the entire mandate of the bank. Group treasury, group retail, group corporate, marketing and PR, savings and loan, the regional subsidiaries, we set them up. And Family Bank came for me.
When was that? When year was that? Family Bank?
Family Bank came for me in 2011.
Yeah, as the CEO now.
Yes.
How has it been the CEO at Family Bank at that time?
That was a fairly difficult point for me. But they kept on coming to recruit me. And because Family Bank used to be bigger than Equity Bank, they needed a turnaround manager who could transform it and spin it and push it and put it in the map. I found them bank number 38 out of 42.
That is in 2011?
Yes. I left them at bank number 13 after 4 years.
Impressive. How has it been as CEO?
You know, you will never be able to conquer if God is not on your side. Forget it. When I was given that job, I invited our bishop then, Bishop Andoyo Emeritus, to come and launch me into that job, and also pray for me and pray for the organization, and release the word of God and the anointing that goes with that to the entire organization. The first year of operation, we moved from 502 million to 867 million. The 502 is the highest profit they had made for 26 years.
26 years?
Yes. We moved, the following year we moved that to 1.8 billion. Then we moved it to 2.98 billion. Then I left them. I hear they are at 3 billion. So they are doing okay in their standards. But the reality and the fact is, there are many things you need to do and you get it right. You've got to understand that then at that level of leadership, you have got very many stakeholders. The institution gets its identity and brand position from the customers, from every stakeholder, out of who is the CEO. Leaving KCB to make an entry into Family Bank was a major statement that this bank must grow because Munyiri is here.
Sure. And Peter, kindly tell us, how was your day like as a CEO? When you wake up in the morning, what were you doing? Your day-to-day life as a CEO?
The fact is this, my days ordinarily would start from 4. 4 onwards, me, I'm okay. 4, I must turn and I'm ready and the day begins. So 4, I'm up, check out what is happening around the news. If there are a few things I need to get into as additions into how the day will be, I would plug them in. Sometimes I get very forceful ideas those early mornings when there are no interactions. And I evaluate them. Check out globally what is happening around the news, because you need to be sharp. You need to stay sharp. People cannot get out there, they are discussing Ukraine, then you are talking about Arsenal. I mean, you are a CEO. What's your problem? You need the stuff that really matters and counts. Because you'll be in a meeting with other CEOs or with the governor or finance, And you've got to you got to know. So by around 5 to 5:30 or thereabout, get myself ready. Some minutes to 6 or 6 or thereabout. My wife is up as well. We do our daily devotion. Some breakfast for me. She doesn't take breakfast that time. Take off. I have never had a problem with the traffic myself. I hear people saying there was a lot of traffic in the morning. I say, okay. Because me, 7 finds me ready in office. 7, that is it. 7 finds me ready.
You've actually credited much of who you are, your hard work, to your parents, and much of who you are. And I've seen you are a family man. Like, tell us more about your family. When did you get married? When did you have kids? Because I've seen how proud you are even of your family. Because the first thing you showed us when you got at your place was a family picture of your mother, of your wife, of your kids. Tell us more about your family.
Those are very important people to me. We got our firstborn in 1990 or thereabout. So pretty, by the time the second born is 1991 and the last born is 1998, that constitutes now the family. I married my sweetheart. This, like I said, is the force. She is a force of prayer around me. We have journeyed together. And to the young people, please get married. Money or no money, you will figure it out. When you ask me about our struggles, we didn't start in Gong, we didn't start in Buruburu. We know Easterns like the back of our hand. So I know when I say Easterns, you want to think it is Buruburu. Buruburu we came to later. We also came to Umoja much later. We came to Kariobangi South much later. So we know the struggles just around raising the family. And the fact that for me, our father passed on again in 1991, left me with very young brothers, all of them, they were in school. I was the only guy out of school, all of them. In fact, our last born, who is a manager in a bank somewhere, was like 4 years. No, 3 years. 3 years. Him and my daughter ni ile tu baba, lakini if you look at them, age gap, and that presents in itself a very serious part of a struggle where I never gave up around it. When I got into the issue of, and I'm coming back to now my family and the way they have evolved, into the issue of family and why it is very key to me, is at that point when I was in the ministry, I was meant to go and take a master's degree from the university. My father fell sick. Some of those interviews I'm talking about, I was taking them when my father was in the mortuary. And Barclays guys would ask me, what does your father do? I don't know what would be your response. I said, he works somewhere in Mombasa, KCC. That time I'm planning my father's burial. And God made me sail through it. Before I buried my father, I had gotten a letter of appointment. And they didn't know what I was going through. God had it all well put out for me. There is no place. There's no place, better place for mentorship for a child as they are coming up than home. There's no better mentor for your children than at the parental level. There is no hero my son knew before he knew me. Now they may know other heroes. I mean, what I'm trying to say is very simple. Parenting is not as complicated as people put it. You've got to be friends with your children. That's how it works. You've got to build a bond. There's nothing like you cannot be questioned. I have enough humility to realize that my children, I want them to go further in life than me. That's my prayer. I may not be able to give them wealth as a heritage because I'm in the straight and narrow, and I'm okay with that. But when I've given them the heritage, the biblical heritage, what God wants them to be, they will go very far. What I'm trying to say is central to me is a future around the family and that they are okay, but equally, I'm people. I like to support people. I know nobody would want to be in a position where they are disadvantaged, they are struggling. So one of the ministry we have been running is around supporting women with HIV and AIDS and paying school fees for orphans. Even when we are low on finances, we do it, and it's okay.
Talking about being a people's person, in 2022, you actually ran for governorship of Nyeri County. Yes. Please talk to us about your political journey.
I felt very challenged in terms of where Nyeri was. Given that we lost out Dr. Wahome Gakuru, an economist I knew, and I knew his capacity. And I kept on asking God, so what happens to these people? These are my people. That's where I grew. That is where when I walk, they call me a name like Wangai. You see now, if you call me Wangai, you will say, why are you Wangai? They know me. They know. And I said, the way everything is collapsing, those sectors, coffee, tea, the issue of hopelessness on people, poverty is creeping up. I said, God, what do you want? What do you want with me? And God said, go. So from 2020, I got out. I did it. And I would get these people in Kamokojis, I would get them in halls, and we would articulate, we get out. We did a lot of work. And there was no question. We were into the finish line. And I was really reinforced, even by the debates by Bishop Emeritus Oginde. He said, Christians, stop just being on the knees. Get out. The kingdom suffers violence. We are talking about changing the situation we have in our land. We won't just change it sitting here in church. Get out into those leadership positions and get them and sit there. Then you drive the change. And you know, on this particular one, I was clear. I ran for that particular race. And I was satisfied, God, I have done your mission. So when I came back, I was into normal life. Started running my enterprises the way we run them with my wife. We are both co-founders, co-investors, name it. We share powers in terms of sign out those accounts, you know, name it. I mean, as we have no issue. And it's interesting because when I went back even into my social networks here in Nairobi, people are getting surprised that you are still able to afford for yourself food. You can come to the club. Once in a while, we also get into the cause and do social golf. You are still here. Because many guys then either they were hospitalized or they were going through real stress and struggles. For me, emotionally, I was still fine. God, this is what we wanted. This is the outcome of this. Then I'm fine. Get me into my next journey.
What was your biggest lesson? Was most of your life actually won in everything? Be it family, be it your career. But this first time you got into politics, then it never went how you wanted it to be. What is your biggest lesson in that?
You know, I didn't lose. I still have very many followers in Nyeri who, the only governor they know is me. They believe in my vision, my mandate. And I'm not talking this way to say that politicians don't lose. There are politicians who lose. But this elder never lost the election per se in terms of, I still have people. They still call me. The real issue is that humility to say, fine, this is the outcome. And me, I'm a believer. God, you wanted it this way. Take me into the next phase of my life.
Will you give it another shot?
I'll tell you this. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, under whose party I campaigned very hard, has found it fit, him together with our Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, they have found it fit to have me as the chair of the National Standards Committee. he has found it fit to appoint me to such a significant job, and I'm very grateful, because in there lies an entire whole security of this nation. Commodities coming from out, we have to certify they are safe for consumption, exports getting out, the entire industrialization strategy, we have to standardize. I mean, would you be in doubt today that I was in God's plan? If I never got out to fight that this government comes on board and that we bring a change, I wouldn't be where I was. So what did God desire? Get out, the change will come, but I'll reroute you the way I rerouted Jonah. I'll have you as a chair on this. Go drive the change. So you asked me whether I'll be there. You don't talk future. You leave the future to God.
You're not talking like a politician.
But in terms of the calling for change and wanting a good nation, a good country, I'll tell you this, I will support to the hilt the change I believe in.
Yeah. Just before we had this interview, we had a conversation about politics, and you actually say that politics is not dirty.
It's not.
The people that are dirty bring their dirtiness into the game.
Politics is okay. Politics is a career. You are in the media fraternity. That's your career. Somebody else has gone to politics. It's his career. Somebody else has gone into medicine. That's the career. Somebody else is into priesthood.
It's a calling.
Even what you are doing in media is a calling. And before God, the gifts are the same. When you are going to get a seat of a political seat, it's not a boardroom interview. So the rules are not the boardroom rules, are they? They are not. So that other journey of you are now out with the public is like Jesus launching his ministry out with the public. So you'll find all manner of people, because it's not a church setting where you are just talking to born again believers speaking in tongues. That's called secular world. Now that is where you are as a Christian. That is where you will find demons, they are walking hand in hand. So the real issue is that particular career in itself has got all those pitfalls, and the setting and the environment and the stage in which it is played out is exactly how it is. Now you need to be resilient. You have to be very bold. The boldness of the likes of Moses and Daniel. So it is not dirty. It's people, somebody will choose to be dirty.
Yes, Elder, as a man of God and as a Christian, you found yourself in a scandal, the NYS scandal, but you are acquitted by the court. I mean, how did it affect you and your family at that point in time, bearing in mind that it was actually a big scandal in the country?
I'll say this. You know, when you are set up, you must realize there is a life ahead. The media, then mainstream media, pushed that agenda in a certain way, and 28 banks paid money out of that NYS. Even today, the government money is being paid out of central bank to accounts of customers in commercial banks. Even today, even as we are here, Ministry of Roads, State Department of Agriculture, every ministry, those who have supplied there, those who have worked, it is still happening even as we are sitting here. There is no banker, including this one here, who works in the government department called procurement, where we have given you gentlemen work to go and do. The tender work, the certification that the work has been done is done by government officers. Under government officers, you have what you call an approval process. They are satisfied that you have supplied what you needed to supply or the work you are given. So they liaise with their banker. Who is their banker? Central bank. What does central bank do? They release the payments to accounts sitting in commercial banks. Accounts of who? Suppliers of government, who are the general public, but they are also the customers of commercial banks. So the paying bank is called central bank. Who is the banker who is the banker for the government? That's what is happening even today. So the whole issue around Family Bank and the other 28 banks under that NYS 1 was simple. did the bank report back all the transactions that were paid to so and so? Because very many people had been paid. Wengine wakubwa na mnawajua. Many people. Did you report back that for an amount above 1 million shillings, you reported to a body called Financial Reporting Center that it is true, we paid so and so, we paid so and so? That was the issue. We found ourselves on crossfire as bankers. And the government used the criminal justice system to push its innocent citizens so hard so that you cover other people in government. It was bad. And this is why no matter how you look at it, we need to have these safeguards. We need to have these independent institutions do independent work. There should never be a case where one person is calling ODPP, charge so and so, because he is trying to cover up so and so. Now you can imagine you've been thrown in that way. A lot of media publicity everywhere. You are a family man. You got your kids around, they're in colleges or they are working around. You are being put in like a criminal. Other guys, brethren, they also jump in. Because this brother built the fastest growing bank in this industry for a period of 3 years. Family Bank was the fastest growing bank. It was the best bank to work for. Those are statistics from KPMG and Deloitte. So I had enough enemies because success attracts a lot of enemies. And I went through it. Ultimately, the chief executive officer of a bank, the law says, and you can go check a law called anti-money laundering law. The law says the chief executive officer of a bank or the chief internal auditor can never be appointed anti-money laundering or cash reporting officer. They can never. It was never my job. It will never be a job of any CEO. Yet some of these other banks, the Equity, the Core Bank, name it, they even ended up to go there and negotiate, and they paid a lot of money because they are being condemned, they are guilty. And the judge was asking then, if this is the law, why did you charge so and so? Then you are getting all manner of reporters now. They have a one-sided position. They don't even want to go and interrogate the law. So it was a very difficult time for my family. My wife and my family bore the brunt of the whole thing. Emotionally, we sometimes would get very drained. You get into court, the case is not moving because you have been charged many. And finally, when the entire process was over, I looked at myself. I said, okay, let me do an audit around at family level, because this is where I was seeing the struggles and the pains. And this is where if they destroyed, they would have destroyed me. I found God's grace was so sufficient, and He kept me disease-free for those 6 years. I never fell sick. My family, they were okay. I looked back, I said, we never lacked money to pay school fees for our children. I found that same period, my son transitioned out. There he is. He's a general manager in this town. I found the last born, who by then was in Turi, and who I was so worried that this whole thing will crush him. He went, he got out, we took him, got his degrees, he is with Open Capital. I looked around, I found, even that same season, our daughter got married to a very pleasant gentleman, good friend now, because I want my daughter safe as well, so tuko marafiki sana na Joe. And I found I'm a grandfather, 2 children, grandchildren. I mean, name it. What am I trying to say? They didn't manage. The hardest bit was when I was put into those charges maliciously. And everybody knew it was malicious. And people deserted us. We had a catcher in Sitamgong. And I was supposed to speak during that overnight catcher. You know, catcher, you'll have many speakers. Was one of them. And my preaching was from Isaiah chapter 54. And I spoke to the senior pastor. I said, having been taken to court, today and tomorrow is 31st, Miss Yoni, church I'll come but kupreach. Sasa wameniweka kwa media, hiyo siku hata nimewekwa kwa standard kapicha kengine tu. He said, hapana, Elder Munyeri, that's Pastor Jesse. He said, Elder Munyeri, you are going to preach. You will even pray. And don't change the position of where you have been sitting. It happened. What am I trying to say? Please, despite what you are going through, can be a workplace, can be in life, do not run away and get into sin. Pursue and ensure the presence of God is with you. You will not lose.
And for sure that season came and passed. And right now, His Excellency, the President William Ruto has appointed you to a new position. How did you receive that information regarding that appointment?
I was very overwhelmed. I felt overwhelmed. I felt very, very, very joyful inside. I knew this is extreme favor released from God. We are 50 million people. And I said, God, you have remembered me. And therefore it surprised me. It made me very happy. It made me very thankful. First of all to God, because He has given me a new name, no matter how you look at it. Because to some people it is, and you know, when they were fighting me, they were even mentioning Sitam. There was mentioned, he is an elder in Sitam. He has even been a treasurer of Sitam. He is even a Sunday school teacher in Sitam. Because that's why I said it could be some Sitam brethren who are also involved. So, I mean, these guys were accurate. And then they would go ahead so that you really look bad. Despite he is an elder. He has a revolver gun, so he is also dangerous. You're laughing. I want you to know that the Christian walk, and you want to conquer the world, then you must confront the world, and the world does not carry the Christian principles. You must know that position. So this overwhelmed me. We have been grateful. We are very thankful to God. We are grateful to that He's made the president locate us. So my life is one pattern, one path, God and me. And I always know, and this I'm saying with a lot of humility, I always know problems can come. I always know, like looked at from a perspective of had the fastest growing bank, even the governor central bank couldn't raise a voice and tell the head of state, then look, you can't persecute these bankers, they are innocent. I mean, it was just to choose to allow a free fall, which is very unfortunate. But the fact and the reality is, you'd look at it, you think I lost. I haven't lost anything. God, I normally say, God, He has a plan. And God's plan is not read from the beginning to the end. God starts from the end.
And Elder, you've really achieved a lot in life. Your family life, your career life, political life. I mean, would you consider yourself right now as a successful person? Have you reached your peak yet?
No. You know, in one walking with God, and one who knows that their position has something to do with God, it is a big no. I evaluate the success of a man in terms of, number one, your level of godliness. And I'm not saying I'm judgmental, but I'm wise enough to know this guy on matters faith, on matters Christianity, huyu the rating iko chini. Huyu ni Sunday, tunainua mikono, anaiba. Monday, he is the most corrupt fellow around. So I evaluate people in terms of their success. Number one, you and God. Mko namna gani? Number two, family. Uko aje? For me, once you have failed those two, Don't worry about the Range Rovers and helicopters and planes and name it. The next thing is the issue around what is your brand? What is your brand? When we say so and so, what is your brand? The Bible is very clear. Wewe niambie tu mnatembeanga na akina nani, then I'll define you. And lastly, the last thing I evaluate the success around a man, because those are important, those I have said. This is the whole issue, and me, please guys, take me just the way I am. Is the whole issue around laziness and hard work. I have a lot of problems with lazy people. I have a lot of problems. Because that translates itself into very many other bad things. Kids don't go to school, families can't put food on the table, people start to fight at family level, purely just because a man is lazy. A man today cannot be telling me about work-life balance. What are you balancing when you have nothing? What are you balancing? You put in hard work. If stress levels are taking shape, take a short break. Be a part of a gym or buy a machine or an equipment or get jogging in Karura and everywhere. But please don't stay lazy around, failing to provide for your families and your children, and you are telling me, oh, I'm doing work-life balance. So you can't excel in career because you really you are very balanced. So I mean, those for me are real key parameters around who this man is. If I'm a replica of God, created by him, empowered fully by him, with a component of the Holy Spirit in me, why wouldn't I be able to overcome the struggles and the challenges which I'm fighting ahead? It's key, it's important. We must realize that the most significant and important things around life is just around doing things right, supporting people. That completes it, and that is it. Because 50 years after you are gone, there are very few people who will even remember you. Then why don't you build your life and your legacies and your impact on people? Support people. Where you can pay school fees, pay. Where there are people who are going to ministry, God has asked them to go to ministry, they cannot be able to support themselves, support them. And you don't support them, then you are telling everybody, hey, unajua sasa yule. No, you do it and you move. So this Christ we are following and serving must completely then transform the lives around us.
The lives around
us.
Yeah, as we conclude, Elder, what do you want to be remembered for as your legacy when all is said and done?
Nothing, for me, nothing can outweigh that I lived a life that God would approve. That I was there for other people. That when it comes to the work of God, I wasn't a pastor, but of all the giftings I have, I did it. That there is a family, and those are the guys, and you are hearing them there, and you can see them, and they mirror, they've got some godliness in themselves. That's enough for me. That would be enough for me. It's even more than I would ask for. That is it. And on that basis, again, to say as the chair of these celebrations of our CETAM church, we are happy. We've seen the way God has moved with our ministry. And 30th of July is a very significant day as we welcome everybody, including our chief guest, the presiding bishop of CETAM, Karisto Odede, to come and give us that which God will have placed in him. We are already happy that every day and every Sunday when we congregate, God has kept moving. People have been healed, lives have been changed, There's so much blessings and there are so many things we can talk about. That in between we see ourselves, we sit down there and the leadership that has been there and the leadership that is there. That God has really used that ministry as an icon. And he has had us there for a bigger purpose. So I would want, as the chair of this planning committee, to welcome everybody on 30th and to tell them that for the activities which we are having, whether it is missions, we have a trade fair coming, we have got evangelism, we have got crusades, to tell them as well as the people of our church, plug in and get involved. In fact, God has really moved in Go. And we are happy that we have been part of his works. And we know for sure that 30th of July, 20 years down the line as we celebrate, God is going to do something pretty big. We already see it because we are in prayer, the entire church. And we are waiting and we know it will happen. So please mark out your diaries that 30th, you be a part of the celebrations and a part of waiting on God to release and give us into the next way forward as a ministry. Yeah. And we are very grateful.
Yeah, and as your parting shot, maybe what's your advice to anyone who is in their career journey and they're finding it a lot of difficult to make it? What's maybe your parting shot as you conclude this?
Read the word of God. It will build you resilience and don't give up. Number 2, equip yourself. Don't aspire to become a CEO if you are not equipping yourself along the leadership trainings. Don't aspire that to excel or to go into a particular line in your career without you knowing what does it entail. So you want to end up a CEO, please figure out and get, and there's a lot of information, libraries, textbooks, people who have gone through that journey, get involved with them. Understand what does it entail? How do you get? I'll tell you my own experience in my journey. 70-80% of you becoming a CEO, it's you. You have equipped yourself. Yeah? You'll have to excel in very many fields, and you'll have to just articulate and state, this is me. There's an opportunity available in my organization, I'll go for it. There's an opportunity available in another organization, I'll go for it. Let me tell you, there can only be one CEO in an organization. If you really want to become a CEO, and the person who has been appointed as CEO is within your age bracket, God is telling you, you are also good for another CEO somewhere else.
I guess that's a good place to end our conversation today. Thank you so much, Elder, for your time.
I'm extremely delighted.
Thank you so much. That has been Elder Peter, an Elder Sitam Church, former CEO of Family Bank. I guess my take home will be your level of success is measured by how well your relationship is with God, your family, and how hard you work. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Kennedy Kimani. Enjoy the rest of our programming.